Imagine walking into the spotlight with the whole world watching, cameras flashing like fireworks and every eye on you. And then your heel catches, you stumble, you fall. For most of us, that would be the ultimate nightmare. But when it happened to Anne Hathaway at the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere, she turned that fall into something unforgettable. What happened next didn't just save the moment it made. History on the red carpet, the premiere night was nothing short of magical. The anticipation for Devil Wears Prada 2 had been building for months, and the event promised glitz, glamour, and a return of one of the most iconic stories in fashion film history. The carpet itself was a glowing runway lined with paparazzi, fans shouting her name, and reporters eager for just one photo, one soundbite, one moment. The air was thick with excitement. Every step Anne Hathaway took felt like part of a carefully choreographed performance, as though the premiere was her stage and she was the star of a live show, and appeared in a stunning gown, a dress that whispered elegance with every fold of fabric. It shimmered under the bright lights, drawing gasps from the crowd and even making the cameras seem to click faster, as if the lenses themselves couldn't get enough of her. She smiled, waved, posed perfect as always. But then, in a twist no one could have scripted, it happened. Her heel snagged against the edge of the carpet. It was quick, so quick it almost looked like slow motion. A stumble forward, arms flaring ever so slightly to catch her balance. The crowd's gasps seemed to ripple outward like a wave. Photographers, who just moments earlier were snapping glamorous shots, now caught the unexpected Anne Hathaway Hollywood royalty suddenly tumbling at the very event where she was supposed to reign supreme. For the tiniest fraction of a second, time seemed to freeze. The weight of the moment was heavy. Everyone knew the rules of the red carpet. It's where perfection lives. The world doesn't expect flaws here, let alone a fall. And in that frozen moment, the question hung in the air: would this be remembered as an embarrassing disaster? Would the headlines read not about the premiere, not about her breathtaking dress, but about her clumsy fall? But here's where Anne Hathaway reminded the world why she has become such a beloved figure. Instead of panicking, instead of looking horrified, she leaned into the moment. She laughed. A genuine, bright, unshaken laugh. She bent forward, gave a playful little bow, and turned what could have been humiliation into entertainment. It was as if she was telling the crowd, "Yes, I fell, and it's okay." The crowd's energy shifted instantly. What started as sharp gasps turned into laughter, then applause. Even the photographers, trained to capture every unflattering moment, couldn't help but smile as they clicked their shutters. Because in that moment, Anne Hathaway wasn't just a star in a glamorous gown, she was human, and that's exactly why the internet lit up. Within minutes, clips of her stumble began spreading across social platforms. People weren't mocking her, they were celebrating her. Fans admired how she handled it, not with embarrassment, but with grace, charm, and humor. The fall wasn't the story anymore. Her reaction was, what separates ordinary people from stars is not how perfectly they walk the red carpet, but how they handle the moments when things don't go according to plan. For Anne Hathaway, her stumble at the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere could have been an embarrassing headline that lingered for days. But instead, her response transformed the slip into a moment of magic that the internet couldn't stop talking about. The second after her heel caught the edge of the carpet, Anne could have chosen to look down, hide her face, and try to rush past it, but she didn't. She lifted her head with that same smile she's carried throughout her career, a smile that feels both disarming and inviting. Then, in a move that felt both spontaneous and theatrical, she let out a laugh, not a forced laugh, not a cover-it-up giggle, but a genuine, belly-deep laugh that echoed through the flashing lights. Instead of shrinking, she leaned into it and placed her hand over her heart, bent her knees in a mock curtsy, and even gave the crowd a playful bow. She didn't just recover, she performed. In that moment, she wasn't an actress clinging to dignity. She was a woman embracing imperfection and turning it into a performance everyone wanted to cheer for. The effect was instant. The crowd, which had gasped only moments before, erupted into applause and laughter. Even the photographers, who are trained to chase the perfect image, began cheering. Some even lowered their cameras for a brief moment, caught off guard by how she flipped the energy of the night. And the fans who lined the barricades? They shouted louder, some chanting her name as if she had just won a championship rather than nearly hitting the ground. But the real stage where this moment exploded wasn't just the red carpet. It was online. Within minutes, clips of Anne's fall and her playful recovery hit Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. What might have once been a meme for mockery turned into a wave of admiration. One user tweeted, "Anne Hathaway just made tripping look like a fashion statement." Another wrote, "If I fell like that, I'd cry for a week." Anne fell, laughed, bowed, and owned the carpet. Queen behavior. On TikTok, the sound of her laugh became an instant trend. Thousands of users stitched the clip, adding captions like, "When life knocks me down, but I pretend I meant it." Others recreated her bow in parody videos, turning the stumble into a new kind of viral dance. Even fashion commentators joined in saying, "That's how you wear a gown, known it, fall in it, and make it look like part of the show." But beyond the memes and viral jokes, there was something deeper that people connected with. Anne's response wasn't just funny, it was empowering. Here was a woman who has spent decades under the pressure of Hollywood perfection, reminding everyone that mistakes don't ruin you. It's how you rise, how you laugh, that defines the memory. In interviews later that evening, when asked about the fall, Anne brushed it off with grace. She reportedly said, "If Miranda Priestley were here, she'd just tell me, 'Everyone falls, darling. What matters is how you stand back up.'" The reference to her iconic Devil Wears Prada role didn't just make the reporters laugh, it sealed the moment as pure cinematic poetry. Her reaction became bigger than the stumble itself. Overnight headlines didn't scream, "Anne Hathaway falls." Instead, they read, "Anne Hathaway charms the world with her response to fall." It was the ultimate flip. What could have been humiliation became inspiration. In a way, the fall was never the story. The real story was the reminder that even in the most glamorous spaces, authenticity shines brighter than perfection. And in those few seconds, Anne Hathaway didn't just recover, she became more relatable, more adored, and more iconic than ever before. Asterisk, not every stumble makes history. Plenty of celebrities have tripped on stage, slipped on stairs, or missed a step on the red carpet. Usually the story ends there, an awkward moment, a meme, and then silence. But Anne Hathaway's response at the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere touched something deeper. It wasn't just a celebrity falling. It was a lesson in confidence, humility, and humor all rolled into a few unforgettable seconds. For years, Anne Hathaway has carried an image of elegance. She is the Oscar winner, the Broadway-trained actress, the flawless face in glossy magazines. And for some people, that image of perfection made her feel distant, almost too polished. Critics often labeled her as too rehearsed or too good to be true. But this fall cracked that image open in the best way possible. It revealed the person behind the perfection. In that stumble, people didn't just see a superstar, they saw themselves, because who hasn't tripped before? Who hasn't had a clumsy moment, especially when the timing couldn't be worse? We've all been there. The trip in front of a classroom, the slip at a wedding, the awkward fall in a crowded street. But most of us don't have 1,000 cameras capturing it. Watching Anne Hathaway laugh at her fall felt like permission for all of us to do the same. Fans began flooding social media with comments about how refreshing it was to see a Hollywood star not take herself too seriously. One Instagram user wrote, "She laughed at herself and kept going. That's real confidence." Another shared, "I didn't love her before, but this made me a fan for life." The stumble humanized her in a way that endless interviews, fashion shoots, and award speeches never could. What made it even more powerful was the context. This wasn't just any premiere, it was the launch of Devil Wears Prada 2, a sequel to a film that defined fashion culture for an entire generation. The red carpet wasn't just a walkway. It was a battlefield of style, grace, and expectation. By tripping and then owning it, Anne Hathaway shattered the illusion that perfection is the only way to shine in such a high-stakes environment. Instead, she proved that authenticity can be just as magnetic, if not more. Psychologists often say that humor In moments of embarrassment is a sign of emotional resilience. It's the ability to reframe a negative event and turn it into a positive experience, and didn't just fall, she reframed it. That's why the moment resonated so strongly. She wasn't pretending it didn't happen. She wasn't brushing it under the rug. She was saying, yes, I fell. And I'm laughing with you, not at myself. That kind of vulnerability wrapped in strength is rare, and fans recognized it instantly. The moment also resonated with a cultural shift happening online. In a world where social media highlights curated perfection filters, edited photos, scripted videos, people crave authenticity more than ever. They want to see real laughter, real flaws, real reactions, and gave them exactly that. Her stumble wasn't filtered or polished. It was raw, and her reaction was spontaneous, reminding fans that even icons are human. Fashion writers even noted the irony. Here was a woman embodying Miranda Priestley's world of impossible standards, yet proving that breaking those standards could be even more powerful. It was as if she rewrote the rules of the red carpet in real time. You don't need to be flawless to be iconic. You just need to be real. And perhaps the strongest reason fans loved it. It felt like a victory for everyone who has ever felt judged for not being perfect. Watching Anne Hathaway laugh off a fall at one of the biggest premieres of her career sent a subtle but clear message. You don't have to be perfect to be admired. In fact, sometimes it's the imperfection that makes you unforgettable. That's why, long after the premiere ended and the gowns were put away, people kept replaying that clip. They weren't laughing at it, they were cheering for her. Because in that stumble, she gave them more than a viral moment. She gave them a reminder. If she can fall in front of the world and still rise with grace, so can we. Red carpet moments come and go. A gown shines, a necklace dazzles, a celebrity smiles, and then the world moves on to the next premiere, the next headline, the next viral clip. But Anne Hathaway's stumble at the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere carved out something different. It wasn't just another fashion moment or a small mishap. It became a cultural touchstone, one of those rare times when a simple, unscripted gesture rewrote the rules of celebrity image-making. The impact began instantly. Fashion magazines, instead of criticizing or gossiping, praised her. Vogue ran a feature titled, "Anne Hathaway Proves Grace Isn't About Perfection." Entertainment outlets replayed the clip, not to shame, but to celebrate. Headlines didn't read like disasters, they read like lessons. She wasn't the actress who fell. She was the actress who owned the fall. That subtle shift marked the difference between a forgettable mistake and a lasting cultural moment. On social media, the clip lived a life of its own. Memes exploded, but not in the cruel, mocking way they often do. Instead, they were affectionate, even admiring. One TikTok trend had people recreating her stumble with captions like, "Me tripping into Monday, but still fabulous." Twitter threads dissected her response as if it were a masterclass in confidence. Instagram edits slowed the moment down, setting it to dramatic music, framing it like a scene straight out of a movie. The internet didn't laugh at her, they cheered her. And in the process, she became a symbol of how to turn vulnerability into strength. But the ripple effect went deeper than trending hashtags. It tapped into a bigger cultural conversation. For years, red carpets have represented an almost impossible standard of glamour. Every step, every pose, every accessory is judged and dissected. Mistakes aren't allowed. But Anne's stumble, and more importantly, her joyful response, cracked open the illusion. She showed that imperfection doesn't diminish glamour, it enhances it. That a laugh can be just as captivating as a perfect pose. That being human doesn't take away your shine. It multiplies it. This is why fashion commentators began to call it the stumble that redefined red carpet rules. Some even compared it to Jennifer Lawrence's famous Oscar trip, another moment where vulnerability met charm. But what made Anne's moment stand out was the timing. This wasn't the Oscars, where emotions run high. It was the premiere of a film about perfection, power, and fashion's unforgiving standards. The irony was cinematic. The star of The Devil Wears Prada fell, and instead of collapsing into shame, She gave the world a performance Miranda Priestly herself would have. Admired. Beyond the carpet and the memes, the moment began to take on a kind of symbolic weight. Motivational speakers and lifestyle bloggers referenced it as an example of resilience. Think pieces framed it as a metaphor. Everyone falls in life, but not everyone laughs when they hit the ground. Anne Hathaway had, unknowingly, given the world a new kind of mantra: fall with grace, rise with laughter, and perhaps the greatest cultural impact of all? It changed the way people felt about her. For years, Anne Hathaway's career had been split between admiration and criticism. Some adored her talent, others found her too polished. But this moment bridged that gap. People who had once rolled their eyes at her perfection suddenly saw her differently. She wasn't untouchable anymore, she was one of us. And paradoxically, that made her more iconic than ever. By the end of the week, the clip wasn't just a trending topic, it was cemented into internet history. Articles called it the fall that became her fiercest walk. Fans began referring to her as the queen of owning mistakes. And every time the video replayed, it carried a reminder with it. Success isn't about never falling. It's about what you do the second after you hit the ground. And Hathaway walked into that premiere as a celebrated actress. But she walked out with something more, an emblem of resilience, humor, and authenticity. Her fall didn't weaken her image, it strengthened it. It reminded the world that even in the high-gloss universe of Hollywood, humanity is still the most powerful accessory anyone can wear. And so, the legacy of that moment isn't the stumble itself. It's the laughter, the bow, the way she stood taller after falling lower. And Hathaway turned a split-second accident into a lasting cultural symbol. And years from now, when people look back at the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere, they won't remember the gowns or the jewelry first. They'll remember the fall that became a triumph.